held a funeral in front of the FDA today. Not because our children have died, but because they are being told to wait. Wait for treatments that exist. Wait while their disease progresses. Wait while time, the one thing they don't have, keeps moving. This was one of the hardest things I've ever done. To stand there, holding the reality of what could come, while fighting with everything in me to change it. We're not asking for sympathy, we're asking for urgency. Listen to rare disease families. Act like time matters, because it does.
Just take a moment with that. What you just watched happened on March 18th of this year. Real families, real children standing outside the FDA. Not a demonstration staged for cameras, but for parents who've run out of other ways to be heard. For families living with MPS and ML, delay is not an abstract word. It's measured in a child's development in windows that close. That's what brought 4 organizations together who don't always share a stage. The National MPS Society, Project Alive, the Ryan Foundation, and the Kennedy Ladd Foundation. Brought them together to stand in front of that building, the FDA. The 5 people joining me here were there, every one of them. They planned it, they carried it, and they're still living the work that came after it. And so I want to start with them, where that video ends. So Steve, I want to begin with you, and I want you to take us back to that moment. I want you to tell us what it was like to be standing there in front of the FDA, carrying that casket. And I want to understand what you were feeling. Help everybody in this room understand what you felt that day.
Thank you for that question. I think the first feeling was sadness. And I say sadness because it was sad that we had to do what we had to do. We shouldn't have had to have done any of that, but we found ourselves in a situation where if we didn't do something, we were going to be much sadder in the future because of whatever happened. But beyond the sadness was the empowerment that not only did we suffer from this diagnosis of our children, but it allowed us to empower us to do something about it. We were actually able to do something about their disease in general, and specifically do something about the way the FDA had been treating us. So overall, definitely was empowerment, being able to do something to help our kids.
Megan, I'm going to ask you to answer that same question. What were you feeling that morning?
For me, obviously the anger was there as well, or the sadness, I should say. The anger was more prominent for me. And honestly, like looking at the casket, there's a big, you can't see it, there's a TV here so we can see everything you guys are seeing. I haven't watched that video since we did that. For me, in hindsight, it kind of represented like, that was an example of all the generational pain we've all lived in just a demonstration, right? I was fortunate enough to have newborn screening for my son, which, you know, in the beginning I didn't realize how many people were involved in making that happen. I am now friends with many of the people, Kim here, obviously, sitting next to me, Mark Dant. I've, seen him in keynotes. I've been to a lot of events with people that I realize now really paved the way. And, for me, since Ben was diagnosed, I was, told it'll be different for you. It'll be different for your son. And I did believe that. My son, unfortunately didn't get into any clinical trials, which I do believe in our community there may be kind of an assumption that with newborn screening comes more treatment, or it comes with inherent gifts to that family, and it does. But to sit in a place where you knew there was more out there for him, you had this diagnosis, these families before you have gone through so much pain to get your family on the map, and then we still had to do that. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just really it's sad. It's enraging, but also, as Steve had said, very empowering to see what can happen when people come together using their own circumstance to do more and help others.
And I understand that. I do. Mark, this was a bold, unconventional kind of advocacy. Who or what inspired that decision to stage a mock funeral rather than a more traditional?
That's a great question. So who inspired the idea to move forward with something like that in front of the FDA? There are 10,000 rare diseases, right? We've all heard that number batted about. Nobody's done that. Why was it up to MPS? And so when you look for who inspires it, I have the opportunity to see all of it. You inspired it. Your little boys and your little girls inspired it. Your daughter inspired it, because we're all on the same journey. So how do we change the dynamic? When Ryan was diagnosed, he was 3, I was 31. And the 3 dads, Steve Holland, myself, Steve Smith, and Markio dad, went to DC to go to the FDA because the FDA made the mistake of not approving Aldurazyme for MPS 1 after BioMarin applied. BioMarin had the data, but they stopped it. That was in 1999. It's 2026, and they're still doing the same thing. What did we do to change it? We tried our hardest. We gave it the effort that we were supposed to give. We went to the FDA, we went to Congress, just like Jeff, to try to make a difference, and yet the FDA didn't do anything. They just didn't listen to us. Evolea had stopped by the FDA. Ultragenics stopped by the FDA. Regenix stopped by the FDA. But what didn't stop was the progression of our children's disease. Their tomorrows were coming closer to us because it was ending, and we knew it. Why is it that when we see something like that, we're moved to tears? And yet we think the FDA is not made up of individuals? They are. We needed to show them something different. We needed to show the world that the MPS families know what it's like. We're going to the funerals. We've been to a lot of funerals, frankly, and I have yet to see one FDA member there. So we'll bring it to them. We'll show them the life that they're not seeing. We want them to see it. So we were inspired by each other.
How many times have you said, and I now use this a lot, it's become something I say all the time, how many times have we stood by, we've been to the congressional office, we spent our 20 or 30 minutes, we've walked out and taken the pictures by the bronze plaques. Did they hear us? Did they not see us?
That's a great point, Sharon. I had the opportunity and the honor to be on the board of the EveryLife and the chair for 4 or 5 years. Every year they organize a phenomenal event where rare disease patients from across the nation go there and talk to their congressional representatives. We take those pictures by the plaque and we feel good about ourselves. We come back and Denali has stopped, and Ultragenics has stopped, and Regenix has stopped, and the disease progresses. We needed something different than a picture.
Mm-hmm. And I know they saw us that day. I was standing in front of our families, and I'm looking behind them, and I saw staffers come out of the building and bow their heads, put their hands on their heart. They saw us that day. Kim, I want to go back to you. We know partnerships are hard. We know that. They're always hard, everywhere. But this march brought together the National MPS Society, the Kennedy Ladd Foundation, Project Alive, the Ryan Foundation. How did this coalition come together and work so well together? What did it take to align these organizations around this single unified action?
You know, we're all in this room working for the exact same goal: to save kids' lives, adults' lives. I call everybody a kid. I'm old now, so I can do that, right? We're all working on the same goals, and it really wasn't that difficult for us to come together. We knew that we had to do something different. Elaprase was approved 20 years ago. Aldurazyme 30 years ago. We kept doing the same thing, and we kept getting the same results. And we, quite frankly, were discouraged by quite a few people telling us not to do this. Oh, don't upset the FDA. Don't get them mad. We don't know what they'll do. It's like, well, I know what they'll do right now. They're not approving drugs. So why does it matter that we have to get them mad? And just sharing that message with this community and saying, I remember I said in a video, you know, you can thank me for advocating, but now I want you to join me. Don't thank me. Come join me, because I need you. We need you. And that's all I had to say to Allie and Ryan and Mark and Terry and Sharon. That's it. We need you. This is it. This was our moment. And what I really found amazing was, you know, MPS 1 didn't even have a fight in this particular battle. We were looking for the Sanfilippo drug to be approved for Ultragenyx. We had 2 for MPS 2 with Regenix Bio and Denali. And, you know, once we sort of brought us together and said, this is going to affect you. If these drugs are not approved, no one's going to come to our community anymore. It'll shut down because there's no regulatory path forward. And that's the politics of it. And that we realized together, we have to do something different. We have to do something that will shake this up. We talked about marching and getting matching T-shirts. Seen that, done that, right? So we had to do something radical to get their attention. And I also thought in my heart that, you know, if these folks at the FDA are going to be making a decision, and my son's going to die because of their decision, I want them to know what he looks like. I want them to know what our kids are like and know that they're making decisions about lives. And we all showed up, and proudest thing looking out and seeing you all show up, you all standing beside me, 108 people we had there. It was just amazing.
It was really amazing. And thank you for bringing up, Allie, it's such a good segue into a question for you. MPS 1, we had a large showing, both Ryan Foundation and the Kennedy Ladd. This video was produced by the Kennedy Ladd Foundation. What made this such an important time for both of you with MPS 1 to get so involved? I think you've answered that question, but remind us again why it was so important for all of us to come together.
So been in the space 12 years now. Kennedy is 12 years old, so I have 2 kids with MPS 1. And we thought we were lucky because we had a treatment. And I think we've done the things. We showed up and we advocated and we've shared our story and we went and talked to our legislators. And then you wait. and then you wait. And then everybody knows in here that time is not on our side. And just, I'm so in the mundane of the day-to-day. I don't always see the big picture sometimes. And we met with Mark that night and Kim, and they finally said, you just need that key word sometimes. It's like it's been 30 years since MPS 1 has had a treatment. And it was just like a smack in the face, like, Kennedy's 12. At diagnosis, we were told she wouldn't live to be 12, and it was just the urgency of it. And I think that we have done all the right things, and so there's like, we do need to do something outside the box. And I know that there was some controversy about the funeral, and that was hard because I don't want to think about a funeral, but I don't think that it was ever about a controversy, that it was not even anger. It was to show them urgency because you only know what you know. And so just trying to bring what's invisible to the FDA to light. And I think that's what we did. And so just being thankful. Sometimes I always say talking out loud, Ryan gets tired of it, but I think it doesn't always resonate with you the way it might with others. You need those key words or just that reality check of this is where we are. We're so inundated with so much information, it's hard to understand. And we knew that day that we had to show up because it was for our kids too.
And I just want to add that even though, as we know, MPS covers, about 11 or 12 syndromes, we're all cousins, right? Would you not fight for your cousin? So just because she's MPS 2 or MPS 3 or 4 or 6, we're all going to fight for our family, and we are all one family. And that's why it works to pull everyone together, for the society to be a convener of the community, and we can speak with one voice when we need to do things like this.
And we showed that it could happen, and in a big way.
Absolutely. Those are great points. I would ask every person in the audience, is the treatment or no treatment that your child is on, is that good enough, or do you need something better? If you need something better, raise your hand for a second. I'm raising mine. Okay, so look around the room. Put your hands back up, look around the room. See this is what we have is great, and we want to thank Dr. Whitley and Dr. Muenzer, Dr. Kakis, Dr. Orchard, Dr. Burton, Dr. Harmatz, all across the nation. We thank them for what we have. It's phenomenal, and our partners in industry. We thank them for investing in our children's future. Without that consortia, we have nothing. But here's the reality. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. And what the FDA taught us in the last 15 years is, yes, it is. It's good enough. And so after our conversation at the table that night, we all got together and we said, it's not good enough. We need to let them know it's not good enough. One thing, real quickly, I wanted to add is when I sit in the audience and I see people on the stage, I think, well, they're different than me. They're good at it. I am not. I'm just fill in the blank. So what has two thumbs and drives around in circles in a squad car? This guy. I was a cop for 32 years. I had no idea what federal government is, right, Jeff? I have no idea what the FDA is. It doesn't matter. I have a son with MPS, and that's what matters.
Megan, what would you say to those in the audience that think they can't come and do something like this, that they don't have they may be too early in their journey? And let's face it, you're early in your journey.
Yes. Like I had mentioned earlier, we got our diagnosis for my son when he was about 7 weeks old, so very vulnerable time already. He was our first child. It was hard on our marriage. There was just so many moving parts to it at the time. It did just take me a while to realize advocacy, you obviously in the moment, little things, taking your son to a pediatrician, getting like the day-to-day, that's advocating, right? But it took me probably a year and that first conference and then everything that kind of cascaded afterwards to realize it's so much bigger than my own circumstance and my own family. And as I said earlier, I see very clearly now so much generational pain has gone into making it different for my child, or at least putting that on the playing field. So, you know, I think it's in the app, but you can kind of read a little bit about why I'm even on this stage. But basically, you know, when this was all going on with the FDA, I think the society and in general, they just wanted, you know, here I am, my son was caught on what should have been a public safety net to give you a better chance. And my son was set up with the perfect situation where, you know, he was turning 2, all these things were supposed to be coming for him. And to have that kind of dangled in front of you and then that hope you ripped away possibly was just unfathomable. And I think in a way what my part was, I guess, is kind of putting a face and a family and quite frankly, a adorable little redheaded child to the situation, but really it was representing us all. I was lucky enough to be interviewed by the New York Times. We were actually on the front of that, and the picture particularly was pretty potent. I don't know if we have the picture that we put up somewhere, but I wanted the effect to be the protectiveness of a parent. And I wanted, like, in my mind, I was like, I want someone in the FDA to read this article, see my face at night, and know myself, I'm just one representation of all of these other parents that will never give up on their kids, so we're not going away. And 2 days later, the lead of the FDA was removed. I will have no clue what my part in that played, but I will never have to wonder now, because I did it. I showed up. I went outside my comfort zone, way outside my comfort zone, and, you know, I don't know. I don't know what part that played and where I fit in here, but I'm glad that I did it, and I do see the necessity of it.
I think it played a big part. I think, and so I do want to talk about the impact of this. What was the impact of your article, of this movement that I feel like this effort started?
I will say, even in my own community, a lot of people, you know, they wanted to know more. I still get people asking me, like, about Ben and about even San Filippo, like, just they're invested. It impacted many people.
I think the impact was huge. Steve,
Yeah,
I think you
I
want
would
to say
just add
something.
that, I mean, I think it's pretty apparent that the current administration does act when there's negative publicity about certain things. So our goal all along was to create a scenario that would cause an emotional response and receive attention, and that is indeed what happened. And like we've seen with other issues, then actions are taken. So to me, it's pretty clear that, or it is clear, that we had an impact. There was a negative association with what was going on that got people's attention and the administration. They dug into it and saw that the right answers weren't being given, and then they acted on it, which is exactly what we needed.
What else have you seen since this happened on March 18th? What have you all seen? Do you feel that you're feeling a change? What have you seen? What have you felt? Allie.
Well, I'm not always in it as much as them, but I have seen things just from the rare disease community being invited to the round table, and just was recently on a meeting through the Every Life Foundation and hearing the FDA say, we want your voice. We know that we don't know all 10,000 rare diseases, and we want your perspective. And I think tools have been published, and whether they truly use them, they are saying they want the patient at the table, and I've seen that in multiple ways. I think going into it, it was to get the approval of the MPS 2 drug, to get the approval of the MPS 3 drug, and whether it's reality from where I'm sitting, it looks like they are listening. And I was in an FDA workshop when the commissioner stepped down, so it was a very odd place to be, but I feel like change has happened and is happening, and they want to hear from us.
Yeah, I think when we were talking about going, many people said, well, the FDA doesn't listen. Why are you going there? Why are you going to protest? I said, well, it's not for the FDA. I said, we're trying to draw attention to the FDA's actions so that Congress will act and do something and call attention and say, hey, we do have power because we're not going to give up. And nothing's going to make us give up. And that's always true for us. And Jeff said it earlier, we're not giving up. And so we're going to be there again and again and again showing up. And, the entire rare disease community was watching us because we had watched so many other drugs outside of MPS failing for ridiculous reasons, not because of science. And we're knowing this, and Jessica Haywood was tracking. We had a whole track of drugs that were failing and looking at that, and so we were really approaching it as a rare disease community. And they kept looking at us because whether you know this or not, in the rare disease community, the MPS community is known to be very organized and very tight. And so they look to us to lead. And so there's all these folks watching us. And that's what we had this discussion about. Do we have the courage? Which is somewhat ironic with the bracelets that we have out there for courage. Do we have the courage to risk everything? And that's what I felt like it was at that point for our kids, for your kids. Meg, it's interesting because I've had some people come up to me now and say, Cole's 15, is he going to benefit? He's 16 now. And does it make you upset that he doesn't have the advantage that some of the others do? And I'm like, no, it's not. Every single child, when they get the approval for Avlea, it's just amazing. It's one more thing that we said, we did that. We did that. We partnered with a company. We did that as advocates. And so I'm just so proud of this community and what we've done. And I'm going off a little bit, but I want you to know, and Sharon knows this probably better than anyone, the calls that came in from the rare disease community going, how did you do that? What did you do? And they want to do the same thing, but you know what? It's too late. We already did it. And made that huge impact. And now, I guess staging a funeral will be like dressing up in T-shirts going forward. So.
And just to add a little bit to that, I don't think any of us were comfortable the first time it was brought up about having a hearse, having a casket, dressing all in black, because none of us want to think of those are negative things. But it took a lot of meetings, and we had a lot of late night phone calls about this, and finally we convinced each other that is what had to happen. And we know that some of our MPS families were not on board with that and felt like we were going too far with it. But I know at the society we took a lot of calls. Everyone that expressed a concern about that, then we called them up and talked them through it. But we just felt like, for all the reasons that's already been said, that we had to do something different. We had to do something big, that the potential negative impacts were minimal compared to the potential positive impacts, and that's what we're seeing now.
Right, we are.
I just want to add one last thing about that topic. Did it make a difference? I can tell you the CEO of Ultragenics had been trying to get a hold of, have a conversation with the commissioner of the FDA for a year and a half. A year and a half. 2 days after the march, the FDA commissioner called the CEO of Ultragenics. We had been asking for months. Kim put a letter in the hand of the FDA commissioner, in his hand, simply asking to meet with the National MPS Society and these leaders of our leaders, and we never heard back. Terry applied the official way several times, and we never heard back. 2 days after, he meets with the CEO of Ultragenics. Within a week, Senator Johnson, after our meeting, with Senator Johnson, calls a meeting with the commissioner in his office. The commissioner comes over and says, oh, by the way, we approved Avlea this morning. So did the march make a difference? Did your advocates, us, all of us, did we make a difference? And the answer is a resounding yes.
So Mark, there's a risk sometimes that a demonstration becomes just a memory. We can't let that happen. So what are we going to do about it?
So what are we going to do about it? So that's when we look out at you and say, well, what are we going to do about it? Because the we is the person sitting in your seat. So when you see us, the two thumbs guy and the rest of us who don't have a real job in the federal government, have no idea what we're doing, we're in your seat and you're in ours. And that includes the doctors and physicians and scientists, because you're on this journey with us. You chose to be here. We got to be here. So what are we going to do next? We're going to continue to amplify the voice of MPS through the National MPS Society, through your leaders in our other partner groups. We're going to do that together. And so when you get an email that says, hey, we need you to maybe reach out to your congressperson, well, that's not me. You know what? Yes, it is. Because how many emails and how many texts do we send a day? Countless. So what we need to do is get fired up inside. And when Sharon and your partners in the society say, we need this, you say, I'm that person. I've got the two thumbs. I can do it.
We need you. Show up. If you're uncomfortable, we'll help you get comfortable. It's easy. Your voice, your story. What are specific policies that we need to be going after?
Yeah, so, I think, just to piggyback on what Mark said, this is, I feel like, the closest that we as disease cousins have been in a long time, and I never want to see that go away. So if you're here and your child has MPS 1, or you have MPS 2, or MPS 3, A, B, Morchio, 6, 7, go meet somebody else that has a different disease, because we're all in this together. What we're seeing going forward, we still have the age cap that the FDA unfortunately put on our MPS 2 drug, Avlea. We're not going to accept that. It's just not going to happen. So we're pushing, and we will keep pushing until every single person diagnosed with MPS 2 gets that drug. So there's drugs also waiting in the wings that these decisions were built upon. I also want to point out that Avlea was the first time that heparin sulfate has been recognized as disease-causing and got accelerated approval. 30 years we've been trying to do that. And folks on this stage have been in that fight. Dr. Muenzer, my gosh, he said it forever in every presentation he's ever done. And so all of us have been working for that. And that's a milestone. And why is it a milestone? Because every clinical trial going forward for MPS 1, 2, and 3 have heparin sulfate. And so these companies can now use that as a biomarker to say, if we can reduce the heparin sulfate, then we will see clinical benefit. And so that's an amazing thing all in itself. That is a great win. So we're going forward with that. We're going to work on the age caps, and we are also very aware that anything that this FDA, decisions that they make, will ripple into the future. And so we're really trying to work and make sure we're keeping those connections. And one of the things to Sharon, what Sharon was saying about advocacy, your advocacy doesn't have to be, you go see 20 Congress folks, 20 House members. You create one relationship. Jeff, you know this very well. Create one great relationship with one member of Congress, one senator, and just nurture that and keep going back to that. That is going to be what makes the difference. It's that, because as we know, it could be one senator saying to the FDA, "What are you doing over there? I heard from the community that you're not approving their drug." We don't know, right? It's all a big mystery of mirrors and smoky rooms. Maybe not smoky rooms anymore since smoking's not allowed. But you get the idea. So again, and I'm rattling on because I just love this community so much, and I'm so proud of you, and I love to see all these people that are benefiting and will be benefiting from this, and nothing will make us happier on this stage than seeing kids healthy.
That's right.
And I just want to add, when we say MPS, we mean ML as well. It's a cousin, just like the MPS syndromes are. And there's, assuming the MPS 3A gets approved, if we can think of 3 as one group, which I know we can't, that leaves ML as far as not, of the broad syndrome groups, of not having a treatment. And the society currently has a challenge grant out for that. And we're working with the ISMRD, which is a ML-specific group for that. And in fact, we've got programming, I think, tomorrow on that. And we want to draw attention that we're not leaving anyone left behind. We're going back and trying to get approved drugs for all of our syndromes that we represent.
One more thing to add to what is it we're asking for now? 12 years. From the time the science is ready to treat until the time the FDA says, yes, we're going to approve it, it still takes 12 years. Well, if your newborn screening infant was just diagnosed, and it takes 12 years before that treatment's available for that new infant, is that good enough? No. The answer is absolutely no. So our first and foremost ask is, FDA, stop talking about making changes, about speeding rare disease therapies through the system, and start doing it. Stop talking, start walking, get in the business of approving drugs that are safe and effective. That's all we want. So safe, effective, we want to add a third leg without delay. That's our collective job.
Yeah. Do any of you want to add anything to that? What you would say to an FDA commissioner, a member of Congress, if you were standing next to one right now, what would you say?
I've thought a lot about this question, just on my own. Like, what would I say? It's a few different things. It's don't ever expect complacency from our community when our vested interest is our kids.
There you go.
If any of them have children, it's, what would you do? Do the same thing. And just to never again underestimate, I guess would be the word. Not only a sad parent, but a mad parent. That's what I would say.
Kim, you've got good Megan, you've got good anger.
It's the red hair.
I would just add that when we've met with the FDA before, they've been shocked at the amount of risk that we're willing to take as MPS parents.
Yeah.
So they're wanting to have a perfect drug when we're not looking for a perfect drug. We're looking at anything that's going to make our kids' life better than it is. And they're worried about, so we're dealing with a small population of people. If you were dealing with 100 million people, then maybe the drug would need to be more perfect. But with these small populations, we as parents are willing to accept risk and realize that the companies may not get it right all the way, the FDA may not get it right all the way, but we're willing to take that risk so that our children have a chance at life.
That's a great point. The one thing, if you're on the Hill or if you're talking to your congressperson in your own district, and they say, well, the FDA, they're risk, they don't like risk. Our 5 words: the risk is the disease, period. We're not worried about the risk, all the other risks the FDA wants to lay on us. No, the risk is the disease because we know what's coming.
I actually often say to my husband during our infusion days, he occasionally will say, I just don't want anything to happen to him. And my response is always, it already did. It already happened.
Yeah. Allie, go ahead.
Yep. So I think this is really heavy, and I really hate to say this, but it just showed up actually on my LinkedIn the other day, and it's that nobody is coming to save your kid. And there are people out here and people on this stage, and I think we, be honest, looked at Mark, and Mark had done the work, but then as you go into it and you're not a baby anymore, nobody knows but you. And so the scientists and the researchers and the doctors, they are the experts, and they have the data, and they have all the knowledge, but you're the only one that has your story. Like was said, you live it every day. And so even us sitting up here, my journey is different than Mark, and what Kennedy's going through is different than Cole and Ben, and you're the only one that can say what you're going through. They only know what they know, and so you have to tell your story. And I think it's been really hard on our journey because we're like, yeah, we're being loud, but we don't really know why. But we do know why now, and that's because nobody knows what we're going through except for us. We're the ones that live it every day. So you have to be vocal, as hard as that is. And if being out in Congress, talking to your legislators, that scares you, just post something on your social media. It sounds crazy. Or just tell your pediatrician, ask if they're going to a conference coming up, if they would bring up MPS. We're all just talking out loud, collecting those nuggets, trying to figure out what's going to move the needle. And I really think the patient voice and the patient community is what's moving the needle now. And it may not have to be 10 or 12 years, because I think when this small group of people, I'll go back to that quote, gets together, it's the small group of people that can move the mountain. You can make the difference. You can move this mountain, and you can save your child's life, just like Jeff said. It is possible, but you have to use your voice. You have to be vulnerable. You have to have the courage, and I know you do, because like Mark said, I came from marketing. I know nothing about the federal government. This is not my language, and the science is not my language, but it doesn't have to be yours. Your story and your child is your language. So, and I think the point that Kim said, I was like, I need you. I need your help. That was the key word. Like, we need you.
It's going to take every one of us.
Right. If there's time, I was going to just say one more thing. Is there time?
One more thing, then I'm going to
Okay.
wrap us up.
Earlier, I know you were saying, the rare disease community is watching, but to be fair, our own community was watching. So when you had said that on your, I don't know if it was a live, you said, I don't want you to thank me, I want you to join me. I almost felt like I had already sat for the New York Times and Stat News, and I still felt like that was meant for me. Like, wow, it's a call out, you know what I mean? So, as you said, unfortunately in this community, I've learned privacy is a luxury, actually. In this world especially, unfortunately people need to know our children and what we're going through, or we won't have help. We won't have this needle move further.
Megan's calling you all. Join us. Join us. Steve, I'm going to let you wrap us up.
Okay.
So we're sitting here at the 40th annual MPS Family and Scientific Conference. 40 years of families, 40 years of science, and 40 years of advocacy. So Steve, as the chair of this organization, what gives you hope for the next 40 years? What do you hope? What do you think will be different?
So I would reflect that our family was diagnosed in 1994. So that was 32 years ago, which is the majority of your 40 years you're using. Of course, the society's been around for 50 years, and Joan Cohen can speak to a few years before I came on the scene, I know. But even 32 years ago, there were no treatments. There was bone marrow transplants, and thank you to Dr. Whitley and Dr. Crivet and all those people that did that, but that only affected one syndrome for the most part, and it was a high risk. And, we lost a lot of children trying to save them, but it was good, but that was the only thing that was out there. And now look at the approved drugs that we have for so many of our syndromes. And they're not perfect, and Dr. Kakis, who wanted to study gene therapy as well, but Dr. Neufeld said, no, you're gonna do enzyme therapy. and redirected him, and his goal was to do the best we could to stabilize kids until bigger and better things could come along. And sure enough, bigger and better things are coming along. So what I think is that in the last, I guess 2003 was when aldorazine was finally approved. So that's been 23 years ago. It's taken far too long to get the other syndromes treatments. But if I just project that forward, even at that slow rate, I mean, I just think the future is unlimited. I really do. I think, by then, after newborn screening, there's going to be, your child has this disease. Here's, what you need to do. See your genetic counselor. At an age-appropriate time, those kids will get a pill that they'll take, and it's just going to be like chicken pox or any of the diseases that we deal with today. It's going to be really a non-issue, and those kids are going to live relatively normal lives and benefit from what we've all went through, just like using chicken pox as an example, or other diseases where there's a vaccine. There were families like us that went through the trenches and lost kids before those drugs were developed. I think the same thing will happen in our community, and you've heard me say this before, but we at the National MPS Society would like to put ourselves out of business because we're just not needed because the kids are getting everything they need upon diagnosis and birth. I know that may be a stretch, but that's, and I'm sure that's the goal of the other organizations as well, is put ourselves out of business.
Yeah, I like that so much. I like that hope. It's a great dream, and we want it to be a reality. So I know now why I chose to march alongside all of you. Thank you for marching for all of us. Thanks to everyone in this room who also was there on March 18th. And I want everyone else in this room to join us and march with us as we march forward. I just can't keep a mic today. But join us, march with us, because we're going to keep going. We do not want this to be a moment in time. This must be a movement going forward. So I want to thank this panel, you're stellar, and you all give me hope. Thank you for doing it for everyone in this room and beyond. Thanks.